What is up, guys? QueenSK19 here. Playing what you're going to be seeing today is a clip of a team deathmatch game on Grand Bazaar. This was on a rented server on Battlefield 3. Team deathmatch with 500 tickets. The whole game goes on for about 40 minutes, rather lengthily for the topic I have today. As always, thank you guys for liking and viewing my videos. Always helps me out. The feedback is much appreciated. Um, Now, a few of you in my last video, I was requesting some topics you guys might want to be talking about. Didn't get a huge response from there. A few people wanted to hear about Syria. I am planning, so I will be doing a video on Syria, probably within the next upload. For right now, however, one of my subscribers, a friend of mine, does some great comms, did a video on Syria himself, and just so that I can get this topic out of the way today, I'll be linking to his video in the description. You can check him out, see what you think. Um, Today's video is actually going to be a bit more speculative than other videos. I'm here to talk about the prospective effects of the next generation consoles, what we know about them thus far, and essentially what I think, how I think the industry is going to be changing within the next 5 years as far as video games are concerned. So first things first, just going to outline the basic points here. As always, Sony and Microsoft are going to be having a large share of the market within the next generation of consoles. We've heard a lot of rumors about the prospective PlayStation 4 and the 720. We're also going to be talking about Apple and a couple of rumors associated with them, how that might shake things up. And I'm gonna spend some time on Nintendo. I'm not, honestly, I'll just say it right out in the beginning, I don't see Nintendo's Wii U having any major effect on gaming as far as the next generation is concerned. So I'll spend some time there pretty much outlining why I feel that way. And I'm just going to spend a majority of the time focusing on the important stuff. First things first, the Xbox 720 and the PlayStation 4. Not a lot is known about this right now. Just to go over some of the major rumors we've heard. As always, the graphics are expected to be much better than the previous installations of the consoles. The Xbox 720 is rumored to have 6 times more computing power than the Xbox 360, which is a 20% improvement over the projection of the Wii U. The PlayStation 4 is rumored to have the same results. As always, stuff gets better, computers get smaller, graphics get better. It's no surprise there. I am interested, though, to see if at all that's going to affect production time. One of the things that happened with the PlayStation 3 was that earlier, before they actually released, they added in a good deal of hardware. They added a lot of computing power late in their production. They added some graphics updates late in their production. They added a lot of features. And while it was all well and good, what ended up happening was that the 360 was able to release faster and at a lower cost. And so that ultimately gave an edge to Microsoft within the early days of the generation of consoles that we have now. That also leads to an interesting point of what features are going to be available at startup. In the early days of the PlayStation 3, the PlayStation 3 was downwards compatible with PS2 games. It was also able to run variants of Linux as opposed to other operating systems, and those features were removed shortly after release to drive down the cost and make it more competitive. So I'm interested to see if those features will be returning in the 720 or if they're just going to scrap them completely. A few of the interesting, one of the most interesting rumors that we've heard about the next generation consoles, unconfirmed as of late, but a lot of people have been talking about them, is the ability to play used games on them. Both Microsoft and Sony have been rumored to be working on phasing used games out of their consoles, and this has not been very appealing to a majority of game players. essentially, what they're saying is that the game companies, Sony and Microsoft, make no money off the sale of used games, and neither do the game developers. The people who make the money off the used games are the people who sell the used games, namely GameStop, EB Games, if that's the person you use, although I barely ever see them around anymore. GameStop is a majority of the people that make the money from used games, and it's a business that they've really gotten a chokehold on as far as games are concerned. And as always, Sony and Microsoft are a business. They want the money, which is completely understandable, and so they're trying to capitalize on that. Um, Although one of the interesting things that I'm seeing here, as far as not being able to play used games, is how they're going to. There hasn't been much talk on how Sony and Microsoft are planning to make this worthwhile. Um, Obviously, a lot of the game developers have been switching up, moving more towards mobile markets. I'm trying to hop over that railing, failed. Um, and so I'm interested to see how it is that Microsoft and Sony are going to be able to justify the loss of used games to the gaming community. Um, a lot of people have speculated that digital distribution is going to become much more mainstream. I support that move entirely. I feel as though digital distribution would probably be more effective as far as maintaining reasonable cost than physical distribution of discs, especially now that the price has gone up so high in regards to you know who's getting money for the game. The discs are practically worth nothing to be made. But when you sell the games, GameStop needs to make money off of it. EA or whoever the publisher is needs to make money off of it, and then Sony and Microsoft, and they need to make money off of it too. And that has essentially been what is driving the cost up there. A lot of links in the chain as far as selling the games are concerned, and digital distribution, especially in next generation console games, where we're going to be getting much better graphics, much better quality, larger files, more content in game, especially with DLC. That's something I feel that is going to really affect how the games are sold, and ultimately how the consoles are going to take an approach to used games. Um, so regardless of whether or not the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox 720 do actually phase out used games, which I am not in favor of, as much as I would love to see digital distribution. The used games market is far too convenient, in my opinion, for gamers today. It's something that's been integrated into the gaming community over essentially the entire history of the industry, and to remove it now, I don't think would be effective at all. One of the more interesting rumors that I've heard is the possible entrance of Apple into the video game industry, and there are a few interesting concepts that I've heard that could be supporting this. Recently, um, Apple sources have been rumored to be making a game controller that is compatible on the iPad, and that is something that I'm very interested in. The iPad, as far as computers go, is a far more superior product to the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. It has more computing power. It has better screen resolution. It is a it is essentially a better computer. The only problem with it being is that the controls on the games are not as streamlined. They're not as concise as console games are, and there really aren't a lot of popular console games that are able to be played on the iPad or other Apple products, mobile devices, simply because the dynamic is different. There are a lot of popular games on mobile devices. However, a lot of these games aren't games that you would see on consoles, simply because of how they're played differently. You wouldn't see Angry Birds on the 360. It's just a different dynamic. And so Apple making a controller for the iPad, given that the iPad is already a superior computer, I think would help it a long ways towards making an entrance into the video game industry. Another interesting concept is that developers such as Electronic Arts and Activision have begun to expand their mobile markets in response to Apple products, in response to people playing games on their cell phones. EA, Activision, game developers have been expanding their mobile gaming markets. And so, combined with the creation of an iPad controller, combined with the creation of better games for the iPad in the coming console generation, if game developers are willing to spend the time and energy to make such apps, I think could help Apple become a major contender in the industry alongside Sony and Microsoft as well. And I'm really interested to see how that all goes down. Um, Finally, we have Nintendo, and I'll be perfectly honest here, Japanese games have been decreasing in quality over the past years, and it's not the games themselves, it's the approach being taken to making them, in my opinion. A lot of Japanese developers have had very little innovation in their games within the past few years, especially within this generation of consoles. Nintendo was able to sell the most consoles within this generation. It appealed early on to family groups, to gamers who aren't hardcore gamers, people, casual gamers, people who just play on the weekends. And unfortunately, a lot of the drawbacks in its software and its hardware and the quality of the games available has really affected how Japanese games are being perceived, especially, and it's not just Wii games. There are plenty of other Japanese games that are being made that are not as high quality as other American or Western console games. Binary Domain is a good example. I like Binary Domain. It's made by Sega. It is a Japanese game. It follows a lot of the trademarks of Western third-person shooters, and it does have a good deal of innovative ideas put into it. There was a consequence system similar to the trust system in Mass Effect 3. If you're nice to the AI, they're nice to you, vice versa. And unfortunately, as always, the execution of those concepts was anything from flawless. It was very, very coarse, in my opinion. And so, while it is a good game, there are drawbacks like that are preventing Japanese games from making a big splash in the American market. And so, as far as the next generation consoles are concerned, I really don't anticipate Nintendo making too much of a difference with the Wii U. There are some interesting concepts outlined in the Wii U that could essentially make it a contender in next generation consoles. However, right now, it's all up in the air at the moment. I'd just like to take this time to point out that a lot of this is speculation. Right now, the consoles are going to be coming out, next-gen consoles. The latest projected date was sometime in 2014. The earliest was in early 2013, and I think late, probably December of this year. So there is still a lot of time for new information to come out and change my predictions as far as what's going to occur. So just do your own research. Find out what you can discover. It is really interesting to see. There are a lot of situations going on right now that have the ability to affect how we will be playing video games within 5 years. Whether or not we'll still be buying physical discs, or whether or not we'll be buying from an online market, whether or not we'll be playing on a console or an iPad, and whether or not the Japanese games will be able to make any sort of difference in the market coming up. So for right now, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I guess I'll be putting up the rest of this game later. Koreans K19. Peace out.